The government's in their mind, they're saying, hey, like if this is not in our interest, if this is not helping us, why are we doing these things? And that's one of the reasons why they kind of shut it down. But
Mm.
they were just basically spending money, to large tunes, and that was being paid for by us and our tax money. So that was coming out of the federal budget. And they like to, what they do is the government does is they'll have these big bills and they'll pass these big bills and they'll throw little things in there that you just don't notice,
Yep.
and everyone knows that. It's just
Yeah.
weird, random little things. They call them, they give them like a weird title and then you read through it and you're like, oh, wait, so you're just going to you're giving money to some country that we've, for some reason we're helping. We don't know why. But so that's another,
Yeah.
just kind of example of that. But our budget, I mean, regardless of what it was, our budget's just kind of gone, haywire to the upside. There's been, in people's defense or in some of our elected officials' defenses, they have come to, the congressional floor and the Senate and has said, hey, some of this stuff is just not right. I mean, look at Social Security, look at what we're doing over here, look at this. Like, this is not sustainable. We really need to figure this out. And Trump has come in, or the current administration as a whole has come in and said, "Hey, they're right. Let's actually do something about this." And one of the ways that they want to do something about this is tariffs, right? They also want to help U.S. citizens by lowering taxes,
Right.
right? So tariffs are a tax, essentially. It's a tax. Now the question is, who pays that tax?
Right.
Early on in his first term, the majority of that tax was passable on to the consumer, which would be us. Some of it is passed on to the importer or the person who's trying to import into our country, right? And some of it has been passed on to other people of that country. So they'll raise prices in their country to help out with the import taxes coming to our country, but a portion of it's going to come to us and it's going to hurt our pocketbooks. So it's essentially a tax. Now the question is whether or not that company or the importer of that product, whatever it is, has the ability to, or it just has any pricing power on that product. How can they price it, right? So we've gone through,
Mm.
I mean, we all know a huge inflation move to the upside over the past 3 or 4 years, basically since 2020. And having pricing power as a company, importer, whatever the case is important if they can raise prices to deal with some of these tariffs or taxes. I'm not certain that they actually have the ability to do that. I don't know what the average American is dealing with in terms of the cost of groceries. I mean, I know what I am, and I know they're expensive. So I'd assume that everyone else feels the same way, right?
Right.
So if you had tariffs on products, and they have the ability, some of that, to be pushed onto the consumer, then it's just another way to raise prices. Will the consumer be able to afford those prices? I don't know. Will they? You'd have to answer that question for you and your family. But generally, my, I from my standpoint, is I would believe that they probably don't. Pretty much everyone's taxed at the moment. So will they be able to raise prices? Not as much as they think, I think. So I think the other country is going to have to deal with that. So what's been really going on with shipping and just trade between countries, especially us and a lot of countries,
Hmm.
is we have been they haven't been accepting as much of our product as we have been accepting theirs. So there's an imbalance there. And what the current administration's trying to do is, number one, since we are bringing in a lot more goods and services, saying, hey, we're going to put a tariff on you to bring it in. And it's a multi-step process. So his goal is not to really just come out and say, okay, our citizens are going to pay more for this.
Yeah.
He's thinking, look, we're going to put a bigger tariff on you, so you're going to be able to bring in basically less goods. We want more people to open businesses here in the US. We
Mm.
want to lower taxes for the citizen, for average citizen,
Yeah.
and we also want to get rid of like our bloated government. And he thinks that these will balance each other out, and they're not going to balance each other out right away, but over time, his his theory, or at least his cabinet or whoever's helping him with this, believes that this is the case. So, for instance, a few things they floated out. Obviously, everyone knows the Department of Government Efficiency, right? So they're trying to look for fraud and corruption, bloat in the government. What do we need to spend money on? What do we not need to spend money on? And that's going to help pay down some of this debt that we have, or at least, at the very least, slow down how much debt we're taking out.
Yeah.
Tariffs, a tariff on goods is going to bring in more revenue for the U.S. to pay down some of this debt, or again, not take on as much, essentially, in the future. And then as well too, because they're taking on more tariffs, instead of taxing more on us, right? Start lowering taxes in a way that's beneficial for us. So we know that in his first term, he set the current tax code, which is called the TCJA, right? And he wants to extend that, but he also wants to bring in a few more cuts in that respect. So obviously, no tax on tips, right, is a big one. No tax on overtime pay, which is a big one.
Yeah.
I think the tips is actually probably a big one more for people who do work in jobs where they take tips, because number one, the data suggests that only 50% or something like that of tips are actually uh, um, put on people's tax returns. So they're only claiming 50% of their taxes, or
Right.
on their taxes.
Yeah.
If there's no tax on that, then there's no reason to not claim it. And you and I both know purchasing a home or large items, the home is the biggest one. Purchasing a home,
Yeah. They want to
if
see
you
the
have,
income.
you want to see income, right?
Yeah.
So you have now 50% more money in tips on there. You might actually have a better chance of, purchasing a property. Maybe not in San Francisco, LA, New York, you know what
Right.
I mean?
Miami. Right.
Yeah, but maybe, if you live in the Midwest or something, you may have a better opportunity there,
That's
just
true.
by, having the ability to claim more. So
Okay,
I
hold
think
on. Hold
that's a
on real quick.
wonderful idea.
Let's put the bookmark right there on taxing tips, because I do want to come back there. I wanted to go backwards just for a second, because there were some areas that I just want to make sure that everyone that's listening is very clear on, because a lot of things kind of get muddied in the media.